Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Andy Verlenja, and I have the honor of serving as Drake's Director of Alumni Relations. Today's event is hosted by our Office of Alumni Relations and part of our Everclass series featuring Drake community voices on topics that matter in a virtual setting. Before I get to our speaker, an important note: if you require the use of captioning, you can turn on Show Captions by clicking on the Show Captions or CC button located at the bottom of the screen. Also, we will be recording this session. We do post it on our alumni website in video form, and then we also have it in a new podcast form. We'll give you those details at the end. So with that, let's get to the reason you're joining us today. Our featured guest is Brian Hardin. Brian's a Des Moines native. He returned home in 2017 to lead Drake Athletics after roles at Notre Dame, Ball State, Marquette, even the Chicago Bears. Since then, he's guided what President Marty Martin calls the golden era of Drake Athletics, marked by new facilities, championship coaches, and record success on and off the field. Brian, welcome. How are you doing today?
Andy, great. Thanks for having me. It's obvious that my mom wrote your introductory remarks there. That's very, very kind of you to share all that. But no, it's great time to be a Bulldog, and looking forward to chatting anything Drake Athletics, college athletics related here today.
Well, those comments are earned, Brian. I remember when you came in 2017 and then going back and prepping for the session and rereading the bio and all that's been accomplished since you got to Drake. It's been a whirlwind now, almost 8 years. One of my questions was, tell us a little bit. Well, before we get there, tell me a little bit about just your own athletic career and then kind of how you made your way to Drake.
Well, my own athletic career, that'll be a short conversation. But I grew up around athletics. My dad he was a Drake grad, was a longtime teacher and coach over at West Des Moines Valley High School. And so I grew up going to a lot of sporting events and knew I wanted to be involved in sports to some degree. Was able to participate in 4 different sports when I was in high school growing up. And basketball probably was my favorite sport that I played in high school. Track ended up being my best sport. That's what I ended up doing in college. And then being able to participate in athletics, being around, kind of seeing, the value of being part of sports and being on a team and taking coaching and being, having teammates, that, how that was able to kind of enrich my life at various stops along the way. And certainly through college, it helped me, get through school and be a Division I student athlete. Certainly probably provided me perspective that I still lean on here to this day. But then getting involved also that, in majoring in journalism, knowing that kind of what I thought I wanted to be, which was a sports reporter, wanted to be the next Mark Hansen and write for the Big Peach, the Sunday paper here in Des Moines, or work for Sports Illustrated or Chicago Tribune. That's what I thought my career path was going to be, truth be told. Never thought that I would get into college athletics, and never thought that I'd get to be an athletic director. But some opportunities present themselves, and quickly realized in my junior year of college that when a lot of my classmates in my journalism classes had portfolios put together of their materials that they were able to assemble through their jobs and internships, I didn't have that. I didn't have those materials because I didn't have time to take on a job or an internship like that because of my time being a college athlete. And so I needed to find some other way to put my college degree to good use. And I got involved, volunteering in the sports marketing department my junior year at Marquette University. Moved over to sports information, which really is kind of like PR, sports PR. And that's where I kind of found my initial passion and niche, where I could kind of combine my love for writing with my love of sports. And that kind of set me on the trajectory that you led to. Where first job was at Loyola University in Chicago. That led to a job, working for the Chicago Bears for 3 years, 7 years at Notre Dame, 2 or 3 more years at Ball State, then back up to Marquette, my alma mater, before getting the opportunity to come back home and lead us here at Drake University.
Well, thanks, Brian. Did a great job walking through that. Tell me, are there any moments or stories that stand out from your previous stops that have kind of shaped you or guided you to where you are now?
Oh gosh, yeah. That could fill the whole hour in itself. There's probably something, every stop along the way is going to have some moments that kind of help kind of form who you are. I think certainly working for the Bears was great. My mom is from Park Ridge, so I grew up, I had adopted all the Chicago sports teams as a kid. And so the chance to work my second year out of college to work for my favorite NFL team was amazing. And but a lesson I learned from there was understanding that how you can move up and put it in the world, really kind of you can benefit from folks who you may not even report to. And so I busted my butt for 3 years at the Bears and learned some really good lessons along the way, including a lesson of one time. I had been doing a task where I had to get into the office. I had to be like one of the first ones in the office each day, and I had to take all the clippings. This is, back when, we actually would get the newspaper articles, and we had to either cut them out and photocopy them. But I had to put together a packet of everything that was being said about the Bears, and put that together, give it to the head coach, the general manager, the team owner, so that when they arrived in the office that day, they knew they had one stop where they could find all the information. And I kind of felt at one time that maybe that job had gotten beneath me. I'd been there for a few years, and maybe it was time for somebody else, to take that on. And my boss explained to me just like the importance that had, where everyone has a role in the department, in our whole in the franchise, to move the team forward. And my role and how that played into allowing the head coach, the general manager, the owner to start their day a certain way certainly helped in what that was doing to move the team from point A to point B on that day. So being able to have that explained to me was really important. I still use that lesson today to work with anybody in our department to connect, whether they're directly related or indirectly related, how they are helping advance the experiences and opportunities we're providing our student athletes. When I was working for the Bears, I just, again, trying to work hard, and a job opening came up at Notre Dame to be the head of the football communications there. And two people that I didn't work with or for, but worked with at Notre Dame helped me get my foot in the door. There were over 100 applicants for that position. I'm 26 years old. I should not even gotten an interview for that job at Notre Dame, let alone receive the job offer. But the general manager of the Bears at the time was a guy named Jerry Angelo, and he knew the head coach of the football team at Notre Dame, who at the time was Charlie Weis. Charlie had been in the NFL with the New England Patriots, and so they had crossed paths. And Jerry had seen me work and was comfortable calling Charlie and putting my name in and say, hey, and vouching for me. Same was said for a guy named Tom Thayer. Tom Thayer was our radio analyst for the Bears, and he had played collegiately at Notre Dame, and he knew the hiring manager, a guy named John Heisler. And so both of those two reached out to Charlie and John, independent of one another, to put in a good word for me. And so that I was able to take my resume from a stack of 100 and move it to at least to the point where they wanted to have a conversation with me. At that point, it was my job to win the job. And so I was able to do that. And so that was a great lesson I learned in terms of how a lot of folks around you can help you and to be very mindful of that, to give your best every single day. I think about when I got to Notre Dame, things didn't get out. I didn't get off to a great start with some folks. Truth be told, I haven't shared the story a ton, but I basically got fired like my first few months on the job. I mean, I was, again, like I said, I was 26. I was in over my head. I had never, been a director before. And I probably wasn't prioritizing, like trying to do, the key aspects of my job. I wasn't focusing on just kind of what needed to happen. And I probably allowed myself to get too distracted. And I can remember vividly, basically being told by the football coach that he had made a terrible mistake, that I clearly wasn't ready for the position, and that we'll play it through this season here. We're going to kind of put you over basically on the bench, and we'll find some way to kind of get through the season, and then we'll go in a different direction after the year's over. And I was just floored by this, and it's like, God, what am I going to do? How do I explain this to family and friends? And probably had, there were a couple paths there for me to go down, and I chose the path of kind of digging in my heels and fighting for it and making some changes in kind of how I was doing my job, and ended up, earning his trust and respect back and keeping my job. And it helped to the point where, a year or so later, when we hit some tough times, I was one of the few people still on campus or in town that was there for him and wanting to have a conversation with him and try to help him through some of those things. So there was a great lesson there for me to learn early on in my career about just, understanding kind of what's really important here and focusing on those pieces. And then I guess that the last thing is, that I ended up going to Ball State, and got a chance to move from being what I would say a specialist into more of a generalist. So where at Notre Dame, I was only focused in on doing sports PR for the football team. Went to Ball State and got a chance to oversee multiple departments. So was a deputy athletic director overseeing a lot of our external relations areas, so communications, marketing, ticket sales, corporate sales, and so that was a great opportunity for me to do that. And shortly after I arrived, about a year or so after I arrived, my boss who had brought me there, left to become athletic director at Marquette, and I was asked to serve as an interim athletic director. And I wasn't quite sure if I was ready for it, but had and have a really supportive spouse, and Kara was, encouraged me to go for that. We actually, as things were going, we were pregnant with twins at the time, and there were just a lot of things that were going to be happening in our personal lives that I didn't quite know if I could do it, but I went ahead and did it anyways, and found out that I really liked it, and found that it's something that I probably could, I was good at. Was actually asked to stay on and to continue in that role in a full-time space. And I just didn't believe in myself that I was ready for it. And so I politely declined and helped lead the search for the new athletic director. And ended up going to Marquette, about, several months later to reunite with Bill Scholl, who had brought me from Notre Dame down to Ball State, and realized when I went back into being the deputy number two person of a department, how much I kind of missed some of the interactions of being around, the president of a university, the president's council, the folks who kind of help make decisions for a campus, to kind of lead an athletics department. And that was probably the time when, Kara and I again kind of sat down and said, all right, if we were to jump back into this, and pursue being an AD, what are some schools that we would be looking for? And it's going to, and there were some factors that we had talked through, and one of those schools at the top of the list was Drake. And then, about a year or so later, opportunity presented itself to come back home and get a chance to lead here for 7 going on 8 years, and it's brought me to this opportunity to chat with you and others here today.
Brian, appreciate that. Appreciate your vulnerability about the Notre Dame story. I mean, I think that resilience and to learn that at that point has to have had a huge impact on you moving forward. Talk a little bit about Drake, the way you viewed the opportunity. Obviously, it was coming home, and there's a personal side, but professionally, how you view the opportunity in Drake, 7, 8 years ago, and kind of where you see Drake now a number of years later.
Yeah, at the time, I saw a tremendous opportunity. I spoke with a lot of folks that knew Drake and knew Des Moines and kind of what the opportunity presented itself could be. From the get-go, I mean, it was really important that that I felt that Drake had proper alignment, and by that I mean that we had a board of trustees that understood and appreciated what the value that athletics adds to a college campus, what it could be, and that we had a president that would be an advocate and a staunch supporter of athletics. It's I've seen it too many other times, and I've heard from other folks who have been in situations where they haven't had those in place, that it just you are going to just go crazy, banging your head against the wall, trying to fight for that type of change that would need to occur. And it's so hard to do if you don't have the president and the board of trustees there able to have your back and support you. So that was the first thing that I knew that we had that in place from talking to people in and around Drake and the Des Moines community. And as I kind of dug a little bit deeper, I kind of saw that there was a willingness to maybe try some different things. I think that there were a lot of pieces that were in place. I think that Sandy did a ton of really good things. She hired some really good people, did some really great facility improvements, kind of laid the foundation that we've been able to build upon. So really grateful that I was able to kind of walk into a spot that we had some really good things in place. And so that was kind of when I kind of observed from afar, kind of what it was going to be like, and that's why I was willing to jump in and not just stick my toe in the water, but jump completely in and go for this. Since I've been here, it's just I've been able to realize kind of what I had heard in terms of the type of support that existed, and how it's even exceeded what was told to me in when I was kind of evaluating the opportunity here. So it's been nothing short of amazing. Really proud of what we've all accomplished, and there's been so many people that have helped us get to this point. Just as I know there's going to take so many more to help us get even further here. But I think it's been great to kind of see just kind of where we've come. I think my first year here, I think one of the things that kind of stood out to me was just, and I've said this before, just there was just general apathy that was just kind of around athletics. I think there was a concern like, can we actually build something and sustain it? And I'm really proud of kind of what we've been able to do in that space. And I think that's something that it's taken some time, and I know there's more that we can try to do, but it's yeah, I said at the beginning, it's a great time to be a Drake Bulldog, and it's because we are being able to confidently pursue sustained excellence in the classroom, competition, and community. And it's yeah, that's why we haven't had to sacrifice anything to get to the point that we're at right now, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of.
Well, there's a lot to be proud of. Just interacting with alumni, and certainly when we do events before different sporting events. I mean, the expectation there is that we're going to win now, and that certainly feels different than it did, previous to your tenure. One of
Well,
the
I
things I
think
want
we're gonna win with class. I mean, we're gonna do it the right way. We're bringing in. I know we may touch on this later here, but like we're doing it with true student athletes. There may be some other schools that are doing it with athletic students, but we're doing it with student athletes. Like we haven't lost sight that in the student athlete paradigm, student comes first intentionally at Drake. And we've got this world class institution in this thriving community of Des Moines, and now we're trying to add to it with athletics here. And I think that we're doing a pretty good job, but we are having success. But we're doing it the right way. We're doing it with great people, and we're producing graduates that are leaving champions from competition, but have earned a degree and a diploma that are going to be very valuable to them in a professional life while having personal experiences that will help them socially moving forward.
I appreciate that, Brian. We had gotten a question from someone just regarding, the place that academics plays in athletics. I think you answered it right there.
Yeah, I mean, and our metrics speak for itself. Like I love kind of where we're at. We've done very well in competition, and we all see that. But our student athlete GPA, continues to break records. 3.44 GPA by our student athletes this past year. If you look at our 15 sports that compete in the Missouri Valley Conference, had over a 3.5 GPA each of the last 2 years. So extremely proud of what they've done in that space. We have led the Missouri Valley Conference in APR, which is a metric that the NCAA tracks, which it measures the retention to roster and ability to stay on path towards graduation. We are the best in the Valley in that space, as well as the best of all the Division I schools in the state of Iowa. Our graduation success rate is off the charts. In fact, I was talking to Stephanie Sledge earlier today, who's been here about 10 years, and he's been here longer than I have. And Stephanie is our senior associate AD and oversees our academic area. And she could think of maybe one athlete in her entire time that has been here longer than 3 years that has not earned their diploma. So if you come to Drake and you're here for 4 years as a student athlete, you are virtually guaranteed to walk out of here with a degree, and a degree that means something. And so because we don't have classes to hide students, and we don't have basket weaving or PE or some of these other classes. Like, you're going to come here, you're going to be pushed, and you're going to be challenged. And I think part of what our secret sauce has been that we've got coaches who understand that, and they identify high school and transfer student athletes that are going to embrace that and are going to come in here and choose Drake for all the right reasons. And we've got kids who are going to come in here, be motivated, and then they're supported. We've got a staff here that want to make them better and are going to be able to kind of help do things that they need to do to be able to move on and be successful in that space. So it's yeah, I that's why I feel really good about kind of where what we're doing on the academic front.
Oh, it's great. It's a great story to tell. One more kind of Drake-centric question, and I definitely want to get into NIL. I know folks are anxious to kind of hear your viewpoint and explain that. But just Des Moines hometown team, you came and really worked to establish that. Just kind of curious where that came from and how you feel it's gotten traction, 8 years in.
Yeah. So, and apologize if you heard my phone ringing here. So the hometown team, that goes back to a comment I made when I was interviewing for the job with President Martin and I carried it over into my remarks in my opening introduction about how we should strive to reaffirm Drake as Des Moines' hometown team. And I think that's something that it's important in that we can be seen that way in our community, because we want folks to be able to come down and be part of this. But more importantly, we need to get out there and be part of our community too. It's got to be a two-way street. And so what can we be doing to get out and be part of Central Iowa? There's this amazing renaissance that has happened in our community over the past 25 years. And so we want to make sure that Drake University, Drake Athletics is part of the rise of Central Iowa and of the Des Moines area. So when it came in, we started 515 Day. So on May 15th of each year, our department, coaches and staff will get out and it's a day of service that we do. And we've found a variety of area nonprofits that we're able to work with on May 15th of each day. And you may ask, why May 15th? Well, May is the fifth month of the year. 515 is primarily the area code for Central Iowa. So that's the day that we choose to kind of give back. So it's important that we are of our place, that we know where our feet are planted. We want to give back to our community. We know that at the end of hopefully those folks will be impacted by that and want to come down and be introduced to what's happening here at Drake University and Drake Athletics, so that the two of us can grow together.
That's great, Brian. Thank you. Okay. One of the things we were so excited about this session is you've got such a great viewpoint. You've been at multiple institutions, and obviously you're a Division I athletic director. You're on the inside. So many of us in the news are reading about name, image, likeness, nil, and what the effect that's had on college athletics. So I would just ask you, for those that maybe aren't following it closely, kind of at a big picture level, can you talk a little bit about what that means and the changes that we've experienced the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, it's arguably been one of the most transformative times in college athletics history. Again, we could spend a whole hour talking about kind of what got us to this point, and kind of what it means. I'll try to just provide just the quick version of it. So, name, image, and likeness is the ability for student athletes to benefit from their name, image, and likeness really as a result of some lawsuits that were settled back in 2021. So there were some lawsuits that were brought about trying to get the NCAA to change to allow athletes to benefit financially and have similar abilities as other students on campus. The example I always kind of use is that I've got twin boys. So Elliot and Bennett now are in sixth grade, and Elliot loves sports, and Bennett is our fine arts kid. So we could have Bennett, who's in sixth grade band. I could hire someone from the Drake band, marching band, to teach lessons to Bennett in that space. Whereas Elliot, loves to play basketball, I would not have been able to hire a Drake student athlete to teach Elliot how to do a better job of shooting free throws. So the thought was, well, gosh, both students at Drake should be able to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. Why is it that the fine arts kid is able to do that and the athlete couldn't? So they went through this process and eventually settled an ability that allowed athletes to do this. Now, as with a lot of things, there's unintended consequences that can come from that. And so we saw this proliferation of kind of the schools finding ways to work with outside groups to identify ways to raise money for student athletes. And so we had these collectives that were developed that would then get money to student athletes, and that's where there were some pay for play type comments that people would make about what this looked like. And so we've had this shift that has kind of occurred over the last handful of years into this space, whereas true NIL, and kind of what that means is one thing, but then we have these collectives that were in place, and so then that brought about some other changes that needed to occur, and we got into this revenue sharing era where now athletes, as a result of more lawsuits, where now schools for the first time ever have an ability to share revenue to pay student athletes for their services. And so what a lot of schools have done, what Drake has done, is that we've signed some student athletes, to contracts where we have purchased their licensing rights. And then we are able to identify the amount that we want to pay a student athlete for that. And then they are able to share in the revenue that schools have collected, because there have been some schools that have generated significant revenue over the years. Not all schools, but certainly are some that are generating an immense amount of dollars. So that's kind of a real quick thumbnail sketch of how we got from one spot where you never could pay athletes, and these are amateur athletes, to fast forward to 2025, where schools are now permitted to spend upwards of $20 million on student athletes, and how that will be set to increase 4% each year over the next decade. And so that's kind of where that's a real condensed version of some of history and where we find ourselves today.
Oh, that's great, Brian. Okay, so maybe take that now and kind of specific to Drake. I know we have had a collective at Drake. Where does it stand in regards to how we're managing the process specifically at the university?
Yeah, so Do Great Collective. So Kyle Mertz started this a few years ago and did an amazing job of building it out and getting it off the ground. And then we were able to, Ryan Boatman and the team came in to kind of pick it up and carry it to where it currently is, where we actually have, it hasn't dissolved, but we have transferred funds from Do Great into Drake Athletics, we created excellence funds for men's and women's basketball. So our collective had been in place to support men's and women's basketball. That's where we wanted to start with those two sports. And so we focused in on them. So where we're at right now is the dollars that have been raised in the past through our collective now reside through these sport excellence funds, and we're able to we have signed some of our men's and women's basketball student athletes to these agreements, and are paying out that way.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, and then kind of within the Missouri Valley Conference, how do you feel we are positioned in regards to name, image, likeness, and what we're able to go out and get resource wise?
Yeah, I think we're in a great spot. We're not first, we're not last. We are probably, I would say, in the top third of our league. And I think that's a great spot for us to be in. I mean, that's an area that I've used before. That we don't have to have the biggest, nicest house on the street, but we need to live in that neighborhood. We got to be somewhere in that space. Then we got to be providing the tools that our coaches need in order for them to be successful. We need to provide the tools to our coaches that they can then put our athletes in position to be successful. So that's kind of where we find ourselves. It's a space that, truth be told, like I don't love it, and I've had a lot of conversation with folks about kind of where things are at, but I also know that we can do things in a way that are still consistent with who we are as an institution, and that's why I feel good about how we can continue to do this, because we're going to focus in on still bringing in right people to our campus, maintaining the proper type of culture that it takes to be successful. That's what's going to allow us to get to a spot. There's, spending the most money doesn't guarantee that you're going to be successful. If that was the case, then the Yankees would win the World Series every year. But the Milwaukee Brewers have the best record in baseball right now, and the Milwaukee Brewers have a payroll that's in the bottom half. Well, they've identified the right people, they have the right coaches, and they're doing amazing things. That's going to be kind of where we fit in here. Like we're not going to be, we don't need to be in the same space as some others. We just need to make sure that we're being very intentional with the investments that we're making, that we're surrounding ourselves with people that are going to continue to subscribe to what we're building, what we've accomplished, what we still want to do here with Drake Athletics. And that's why I feel like where we're at is a good spot, and why we're positioned to continue to do well.
Brian, my own curiosity, at the mid-major level, I got to think Power Five, and we all follow the big schools, that a lot of athletes are making decisions, maybe purely financially, on what they could get. At the mid-major level, what are you hearing from our coaches when they're recruiting? Is obviously that's a factor, but does the other stuff still weigh in? Does the campus weigh in? Does the university weigh in? Do the facilities weigh in?
And let's be clear. I mean, we're talking about just a very few number of athletes here. We have 381 student athletes this year at Drake. They come from 36 states and 19 countries. It's the most diverse subset of students that we have on our campus. And there's, less than 24 that are, receiving something like this from Drake Athletics. So by and large, I mean, the student athletes that are coming to Drake are coming here because of the opportunity to receive a great education, because of the connection that they build with a coach and or a team, because the opportunity they see to be part of a community like Des Moines and a campus like Drake. So that is by and large what our athletes are, how they're selecting to attend Drake. But there is, the reality is that looking at just in basketballs, that is a factor. The piece of, is there some ability for, the compensation, or for there to be some type of revenue share, some type of dollars that could be shared with the athletes, and that has, that does factor in to conversations now between, the athletes when they're in high school, or if they're transferring, parents, if they can have representation now, and so it does factor in. It's at maybe a lesser scale, but it's all relative. So they're, you talk to Coach Pullman or Coach Henderson, and they would tell you that, oh yeah, that's it's not the first item that comes up, but it's somewhere that happens in one of those early conversations. Typically, if the first question somebody asks of one of our coaches is, how much are you going to pay me? It's usually a pretty short conversation on our end, because that's likely not going to be somebody who is motivated about what it's going to take to be successful in the long run at Drake.
Oh, that's great, Brian. Okay, so then just stepping big picture. So now recognizing you work here, you work at a mid-major, you're not working currently at a Power Five, but just interested in your own thoughts at seeing how the Power Five are responding to these changes, and kind of where things are going.
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, I wish I could kind of look out and say, well, gosh, this is where we're going to find ourselves in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. I'm probably guessing as much of a lot of other folks out there. If I had to, I mean, kind of looking out at just what has led to changes in the past, what has, which has been either, lawsuits that has forced change upon us, and or conference realignment, in schools moving leagues. Conference realignment usually can happen around the time that conferences are renegotiating television deals. And so if you kind of look out onto the horizon here, we've got some conferences whose TV deals are going to come up around 2030, 31, 32 is when you'll see, another round of, I think, the Big Ten, Big 12. I think the NCAA men's basketball tournament deal is up in 32. Then you've got like 34, I think, is when the SEC deal is up. So we've got some, in the next 5 years is when some of the stuff start to happen. So, 3 years from now, maybe some schools start positioning themselves to make a jump and move from one league to another. If there's going to be changes that are going to happen to the basketball tournament, what does that look like? So that's where I would say probably, we're learning to adjust to the changes that have happened to us with our relationship with student athletes that's occurred over the last 12 to 24 months. Schools will be positioning themselves, I would imagine, for what things could look like down the road. I would hope that we'll have that the waters will be calm for the next few years, but then we'll see kind of what happens in if there's another shakeup that occurs. There certainly are probably some schools that would like to get into the Big Ten or SEC, because that they are driving so many of the decisions that are happening right now. Those who have the gold make the rules, and they have it, and it's not changing anytime soon. They're already making tens of millions more in the Big Ten and SEC than the Big 12 and ACC schools are. It's not too much, we're not too many years removed from when schools in those two conferences will be receiving $100 million in conference distribution dollars. And just to put it in perspective, I mean, the entire budget of Drake University, not Drake Athletics, the entire Drake University budget is $128 million. And so you're going to have schools, University of Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, those schools, not too far down the road, will be receiving a paycheck from the Big Ten Conference for $100 million. So it's certainly there are some changes that will continue to happen. The haves and have-nots. The gap there continues to get wider and wider, which is probably even more important for us to just continue to know that kind of who we are and why we can continue to be successful, because we know who we are, we know who we aren't. We are committed to a certain set of values and the experience and opportunities that we can provide here at Drake. We will push for certain moments and opportunities and lean in and find ways that we can do things through our athletics department, through our basketball programs, that will elevate the platform, elevate the awareness of what Drake is, because you want as many people as possible to have this experience that so many have had here before. But we also know that there may be, some bridges out there that just go a bit too far for us, and that we just need to understand is accept and embrace who we are while we continue to, pursue those memorable opportunities for everyone that's involved with Drake University and Drake Athletics.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Interesting question came in through my chat. They sent me a personal message. First, they said thank you for the great job bringing Bulldog athletics back to national prominence. And I think this writer's feeling the frustration we all feeling like you find and develop great players and then they head to the Power Five. And so he says, do you ever see a world where mid-majors become affiliated feeder programs to Power Five schools and there's some type of reimbursement back to mid-majors for discovering these athletes?
Affiliate feeder programs, I don't know. I certainly can see a time where there is some type of reimbursement back. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, we kicked it around for a little bit about when we put together our contracts that, with student athletes, that if they're going to leave after a year, is there some type of a penalty in there? There's, when our last couple of coaches have left for other jobs, and when Darren and Ben left, and Nico, I mean, there were penalties that were built in there into those agreements. That the next school had to pay. And so there's some thought that when we go through a round of conversations with athletes, so we may build that in there so that the school would have to pay for that. And there's certainly the way that the language is built out. It actually, I referenced the 20.5 million. There's language already in place that would say that if a school was paying a buyout for student athlete services, that buyout would count towards their 20.5 million as a way to try to deter that. So I think that could happen. The feeder piece, I'm not there yet. I can understand maybe some of the cynicism or skepticism around that, but I don't see that happening just yet. Now I could see coaches saying, "Hey, come in here and you may be able to get an opportunity, and there's better value, for you to do something like that." If that, I'm not sure if that's how our coaches necessarily will talk, but I certainly could see other coaches maybe using that as a way to differentiate themselves from others.
Great, Brian. One more just kind of broad college athletics question. So not necessarily Drake specific, but gambling was in the news yesterday. I saw, I think it was 3 Fresno State basketball players suspended for making prop bets and underperforming themselves. I mean, is that on radars? I mean, we've seen it just explode with professional sports. You can gamble on college sports here. You can't do college prop bets. So just curious, any thoughts you've got on gambling and sports in general?
Yeah, I don't love it. I mean, I said this back when our state was debating it years ago, that I wasn't a huge fan of it because I was concerned about kind of the path it could lead us down, and feel bad for what happened at Iowa and at Iowa State. So we've seen it in our state. Yeah, the 3 young men who lost all their eligibility moving forward because of betting on themselves, betting on their teammates, and then doing certain things that guarantee that they would be able to cash in on those bets. They're betting the unders on some prop bets and then going out there and tanking their performance so they could cash in. That, I mean, it's awful. I mean, but it probably was somewhat predictable. I mean, if you look at the history, I mean, there, like, every decade in college athletics, going back to the CCNY scandal, back like in the mid-50s, there's been something somewhere along the way. That Boston College had an incident there. There's been something Northwestern. There's been there's been a lot of variety of schools where these things have happened with athletes or those around there. There's another serious investigation happening right now that is involving schools out east and maybe some southern schools as well. They've said. So I don't like it. I don't. I said from the get go. I also worried about how the having all the gambling, how that was going to maybe change interactions fans had with student athletes, and so I don't love that piece to it of people just kind of speculating why someone missed a free throw or what that means. I've had voice messages on my phone from folks who have called because we didn't cover or we didn't hit, we didn't do something, and they'll call and get upset. I had somebody call. It was a year or so ago. It was after one of our Arch Madness championships. It's nice to say that by the way in plural, like one of them, like it's one of them. Yeah, it's how refreshing is that to be able to kind of talk about. But it was one of those years where I came back from St. Louis and had a voicemail from some guy who was convinced that we had been shorted a point in our Arch Madness final game and that point made the difference to somebody cashing in on a bet or not. And so I actually called the person back, which is always hilarious to get somebody like that on the phone and have a conversation with somebody like this and try to understand like why are you calling me? What do you expect me to try to do here? And they had everything is, oh, is at this moment in time, here's what happened, and so and so made the free throw, but they weren't awarded the point, and it's like, and I knew exactly what it was, and so I explained to them what the situation was. Like, no, that's not right, and they had the game queued up, and they were playing it back, and like, oh, hold on, wait, you said it was a lane violation? Oh, wait, yep, there it is. Yep, okay, well, have a good day, good luck in the tournament, and then it was off from there. So I can laugh about that one, but there are a lot more other really serious ones where our athletes will get harassed through social media because of gamblers who are taking a real interest in their performance and in the game. And so I I don't I don't love that aspect of it at all.
Brian, so as we kind of close out this section, I mean, college, all industries are shifting and change is radical, but certainly college athletics is seeing a lot. I mean, how do you stay on top of everything that's happening, feel like you're informed across the landscape, and then as you attempt to position Drake in that world?
I think you got to start by having a really good staff around you. I'm blessed to have a really strong senior staff that have really good contacts. They kind of see and hear a lot of different things that can kind of keep me informed about it. A decent network of folks out there. Talking to a friend of mine who's a AD of a prominent FCS institution and trying to figure out, okay, how do we bring maybe some other folks together that have similar experiences and or concerns about kind of what the future of our industry is, and let's make sure that we stay connected in our kind of sharing notes. I think it's important that we have relationships outside of the conference that we're in, so we can try to find and okay, what are you hearing over there, and is the conversation you're having in the AD room at your conference similar or different to the one that we're having in the Valley, and why is that the case? So I think that's a big thing. And then there's just some services that do a great job of aggregating articles and clips of anything that's written or said about college athletics that I subscribe to, and they send out a couple things like in the morning and in the evening, just making us aware of what's happening on the landscape there, and kind of read up on that and see, okay, is this something that is I need to know for our industry, or in other cases, are there some examples or schools are doing some pretty cool things that maybe we would want to try to localize and put our own little spin on it to help improve where we're at Drake and what we're doing in the Missouri Valley Conference.
What more questions about your role as AD? I mean, I think you're the coach whisperer now. You've got the three first year Big Ten coaches, or all the last three Drake coaches. One, just tell me what that's like to see us have so much success, but then go, oh my gosh, I've got to find the next person. Just let us know a little bit about what that's like, and then I'd love to know some of the traits that you look for when you're doing that search.
Yeah, I mean, I've had folks, mention that, like, gosh, what's it like to, lose these coaches? Like, well, we've lost in basketball. If you're looking at men's basketball, last three coaches, and I didn't hire Nico. Sandy hired Nico. Sandy and Marty hired Nico, and I came in December of his 1 year here, and then had to, then we hired Darren, 100 days later or whatever. But we're replacing those coaches because we're winning. Let's not lose sight of the fact that we've had great success that has led to those coaches getting opportunities to go somewhere else, and Ben left after 1 year or 11 months, and that's unfortunate that we couldn't have extended that relationship. But would any of us really give up what that experience was last year of winning 31 games, going down to Charleston and winning that tournament, beating Miami and, beating, the Vanderbilt, and how great was that Florida Atlantic, which had been in the Final Four a couple of years earlier, the Kansas State game in Kansas City, getting paid $85,000 by Kansas State to go into Kansas City and beat them in basically a home game for them. Like, how awesome was that? And then to go on to win Arch Madness again after winning the regular season, which we hadn't done here in a while, sweeping both for the first time since 2008. Going and beating Missouri, in the tournament. Like, oh my gosh, like those were amazing experiences. Like that, that memory of walking around Wichita on the Friday after we had won that opening round game and just seeing like all the Drake fans just kind of walking on clouds that day, how excited we all were. Yeah, it stunk a week later that we were then in coach search mode, but my gosh, like that was an amazing season of memories that were created. And if we're gonna have to be replacing coaches here, I'd rather do it because we're having great success, which has been the case. We lost our track and cross country coach this summer. Jay left to take the head job at the University of Arizona. We've lost some other coaches along the way that have had similar success that have gone on. Todd Stepsis left to go to Northern Iowa. But then we get a chance to go out there and replace them and bring in people. And each time that we've done this, the pool of candidates has been better than the previous time. And so we get to be a little more selective and identify folks that we want to add into our culture, to our department here. And so we've seen that with what Joe Woodley has done in a short period of time with football. If you missed the home football game, a couple weeks ago, like get out here October 4th when we play because we're going after our third straight Pioneer Football League championship. And Joe and his staff have put together another great team that is going to be really exciting to watch. Eric Henderson has come in here on the basketball side and is just literally and figuratively give bear hugs to everybody in Drake Nation who is willing to receive one. So it's that's been great to see, and it's been really exciting to see how his team is taking shape, and he rebuilt that roster. So there's just I get some of the frustration, the angst that come with the coaches search of stuff. I guess I'm just kind of numb, kind of used to it because that's part of what we deal with. That's just kind of where we're at. It doesn't mean that's what it always needs to be, and we'll continue to try to find ways and make these jobs as attractive as possible to keep people here. And I know that we can. I know that we will. I think like in Nico's case and in Ben's case, they're both here for 1 year and then took off. They left for places that meant something to them. I mean, Nico had been at Colorado State, and he and Erica had developed really good friendships there, and that was an opportunity that it was too good for him to pass up. Ben was literally born in Iowa City. He's got some great ties to that area and to that institution. I really believe that if the Iowa job hadn't opened, or if they'd hired somebody else, like he would still be here. He would not have, he would not have gone anywhere else. So those were some kind of unique circumstances. But I still, don't want to lose sight of the fact that, because of what so many folks have been able to do, help us behind the scenes, our supporters, our administration, our support staff, the donors, the fan base, we've been able to build this thing into the place where it's at right now, that we can replicate success. We can continue to build on those who have been here before. It's never been about just one coach or one player or one administrator. It's been about all of us being able to kind of do this thing together. And that's why we can continue to push this thing forward. That's why we haven't reached our ultimate destination yet. So that's why I'm also excited to get another school year started, because I know we've got some great people, walking our hallways here, and I just can't wait for more folks to get a chance to see them in action.
Thank you, Brian. What is the hardest part of your job that you think people don't realize? I think a lot of people think coaching search. Is there something that's a challenge in the role that people might not realize?
Hardest part of my job, I don't know. I get to work in sports. Howard Cosell called it the toy department of life. I get to work. That's how fun is this? This is great. I get to be around 18 to 22-year-olds and see them grow as people. We get to see, it's just like the impact that our coaches have on them. Like our professors would love to have the same type of relationship with their students that our coaches have with their athletes. And to see those relationships and how they're able to grow over time, it's so rewarding. It's amazing. There's going to be challenges to any type of job. It's professionally speaking, I think it's, if you have to make a decision to make a change in personnel, that's hard because that there's families attached to that. I hope I never become so callous that I don't care about. I know it's part of my job. I know I need to do it. Accountability is critical with any profession, certainly with ours. But I don't want to ever lose sight that these are people and that they've got spouses and kids and loved ones and stuff. And so I hate to uproot that. So that could be challenging. Having to make decisions when it comes from like a budget standpoint of not being able to do things for certain teams or departments and knowing how that could impact them, that's hard, but we have finite resources and we have to make tough decisions at times. So that could be challenging. And then I get it personally, just like knowing that I won't always be there for Kara and for the boys, and hoping that they understand and can appreciate some of the opportunities we're able to kind of provide them. I'm a big believer in work-life harmony. I don't have work-life balance. I don't. I love my job. I love what I do. I love trying to make an impact and a difference. And so I don't have a perfect balance in that space, but I try to have harmony where I try to get the two of them to work together. And I try to find ways to have Kara and the boys be a part, and my parents and everybody else be part of kind of what we're doing here and experience this ride, because it can be pretty special. I was able to get that from my dad growing up, being able to be in the locker room after great games, being on bus trips. I now try to provide that to my boys. I encourage our staff to do that too. Like we put in long hours. There are a lot of folks on our campus that have the luxury of being able to work 8 to 5, and some are able to take their summers off. That doesn't work in athletics. You're working 12 months of the year. You're working nights. You're working weekends. It's pay that's not as good a pay what you could get if you were working somewhere else in the private sector. You've got to do it because you love it. Working in sports, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And it's not for everyone. And it can burn folks out. And we certainly have seen that. But there are so many rewarding experiences and opportunities that I've been able to kind of share with my family because of this amazing ride here at Drake, that certainly, those are the things I try to think about oftentimes when I'm faced with some of the challenges that get presented to me.
Sure. Well, so if I had to ask you, Brian, I mean, there's been a lot of great moments. Is there anything that does stick out that you've had the family with you? Any moments that stick out over your run at Drake?
Oh yeah. I mean, my first year, our basketball team went down to Springfield, to Missouri State, to the school that no longer is in the Valley. They got tired of losing, so they left the Valley. And so and we had a chance on back-to-back nights to clinch the regular season championship for women's basketball and men's basketball. And so I took Noah with me, and Noah probably would have been, he would have been 7 or 8 years old. And so we went down, and that was a really special weekend. Be able to kind of share that with him and take him into the locker room and be part of that. I think that there's been moments that at some of the things that have happened in Moline for the women's basketball tournament, Anna Miller's buzzer beater and having family there to be able to kind of celebrate that was pretty surreal. Arch Madness stuff, and being able to kind of have that. It's been cool to see my parents get re-engaged with Drake and kind of see what it means to them and to their friends. I tried to warn my mom before I took the job. First of all, I didn't even tell her that I was interviewing for the job because I didn't want her to get her hopes up. And I didn't tell her till late in the process that I was a finalist and then that the offer had come and I accepted. But I was really clear too. I said, listen, people in my position often get hired to get fired. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And so there is a high probability that at some point in time, I'm going to do something that's going to embarrass you or our family because of the decisions that I've made. And I may be chased out of here on a rail. So just know that let's enjoy the time that we have here together, because there could be some things that happen that maybe things don't go so well, and hopefully you won't disown me. But we've been able to, I say that somewhat in jest, but being able to kind of have them around and be able to be part of different sporting events has been really rewarding. Drake Relays is such a special thing. I mean, being able to kind of see, the boys participate in Drake Road Races and Grand Blue Mile and having family around for that. It's such an amazing event. So there's just that there's been a lot in my almost 8 years to be able to kind of look back on and really kind of see how they've grown. I mean, Noah's in 9th grade now as a freshman in high school. The twins are in 6th grade. It's amazing. I've got way more gray hair than I had when I started. It's like one of the worst things for Facebook does, these memories, but you get these memories that pop up from experiences of different Drake sporting events, and it's been pretty cool that these formational years have occurred for them in Des Moines and at Drake.
Well, it's fun to see them grow up too as we see them at events and see you around. I know, we're kind of getting close on time. Do you have a hard stop at 1, Brian? Are you able to?
I'm good.
Okay. So we got a few more. I do want to,
I'll need to leave by 4:00. Noah's running in Marshalltown today, so I'll need to leave by 4:00 so I can get up there for his race. So I'm good for 3 more hours. Keep it going. I may need to order some DoorDash for lunch here, but
fair enough.
I'll turn my camera off so I can eat.
We can do that. Last spring, I stood with you before the March Madness selection show. We had a big party in the Nap, and it was fascinating. I did not realize what a wonk, maybe I would say, you are with March Madness, and would just love those that maybe don't know kind of your own process of trying to figure out where teams are going and the depth and length that you go to.
Yeah, wonk is probably being polite. Kara would say I'm a huge nerd when it comes to some of the March Madness stuff. Um, so yeah, I had the privilege to kind of serve on the FCS selection committee for a few years, and so that's the football committee that places the 2014 playoff field for the FCS. So that's what Drake is a part of. It's what North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State schools like that. We all compete for the football championship. And so being part of that process, you kind of get an idea of, okay, what goes into the selection committee? What are they privy to? What type of tools do they have available to them? And then what is the selection process like in terms of determining teams and then where to put teams in the bracket and all that. So I've kind of taken some of my experience there and then applied information that I've gained from talking to friends of mine who have served on the men's basketball committee, to kind of help me kind of formulate an idea of where we could go because uh, I don't get tipped off for basketball in terms of where we're going to go, but I do try to figure it out. Like just like our coaches, I hate surprises, and I did not, and so we want to try to figure. I always try to be as prepared as possible, and so yeah. So Andy, as I'm talking to you, I think I kind of had it pretty well pegged where I thought we were going to go, and actually had a pretty good sense of who we're going to end up playing, and that's just based off of where. And so really what I do is I try to figure, okay, who are going to be the top 16 teams and where are they going to get slotted into, what cities are hosting and understanding some of the practices that the committee will use in assigning schools to certain locations. So understanding that will then kind of determine who are the top those 16 and where are those sites going to be. And then after that, then you kind of figure, okay, well, gosh, if we think if we're going to be an 11 seed, that means that we're going to play at a site where there is a 3 seed. And who are the 3 seeds? Okay, well, based off of this, you need to figure out who those 3 seeds are. And then you kind of look at it and say, well, based on location, how far is it from Des Moines campus? Because they do want to try to keep seeds as close as possible to those other sites. It doesn't always work out that way. And so that's how, the last couple of years, like I had it pretty well pegged that we were going to be in Wichita last year, Omaha the year before that. Had Albany on my dance card, but I probably was more so hoping that we weren't going to go there. So I may have been blinded by that. And certainly with the food poisoning experience and not being able to hold an 8-point lead in the last 5 minutes, I would have liked to avoid the Albany trip.
Albany was tough. Any chance you ever get to sit on the selection committee itself?
I hope so. I hope so. That rotates around to different conferences. Chris Reynolds, who's the AD at Bradley, was on it here recently. He just rotated off there maybe 2 years ago, and so I'd love to be on that. I think that would be great. My football committee experience was outstanding, and but yeah, the basketball one is the one that I've always wanted to be part of.
Oh, I appreciate that. I wanted you to share that with the group. I really enjoyed that conversation. Okay, building the future Drake Athletics. Tell me just big picture as you look ahead, mission, vision, things you're excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I said this at the a couple times. Just knowing who we are and embracing that, and so continuing to provide those opportunities and experiences for our athletes. It's that pursuit of sustained excellence in the classroom, competition, and community, and it starts with the classroom. Yeah, it's fully embracing what you're able to receive educationally here from an education standpoint at Drake University, and so nothing we do can change or jeopardize what our athletes have been able to do in the classroom here at Drake. So I think that's a huge part of it. Wanting to continue to find ways to make inroads in our community here. I still believe that we don't have enough people attending our sporting events. We have 20, you would know this, Andy, 25,000 alumni in the central Iowa area. We've got a community of more than 700,000 that are within 25 minutes of our campus. But yet, I still see like where there's room for improvement in those areas. So, challenging our staff, challenging myself to continue to find ways to move the needle so that we can get more people in here so that they can experience kind of what it's like here. I really believe that, that the product that we have here is worthy of having bigger crowds and being able to kind of celebrate that. I mean, uh, I just think that the access, the affordability, the proximity, because kind of those three tenets of Des Moines being Des Moines' hometown team is so critical. And what you can get by being a Drake fan, in terms of connection with our student athletes who are amazing ambassadors for this place. Uh, you can't get that in Ames and Iowa City for the same type of investment. I don't mean an investment in terms of monetary, but just like that, just being able to kind of get in and be invested in a program here. You can't get that there like you can here. The affordability piece, making sure that price is not a barrier to entry for so many in our community. We want families to be around here. We want to generate that next generation of Drake fans. And so, how do we continue to try to encourage recent alumni, young families to come here and be part of this? And so that's a huge part of it on the community side. And then, scores kept for a reason. We want to win more times than not, and we're not going to be bashful about, kind of, pursuing the success in competition. We're not outcome oriented. We're process driven. How do we get better each and every day? And if we really kind of believe in that, we know that the outcomes will take care of themselves. And that certainly has proven to be the case in a lot of our sports here in recent time. But what are we doing to put ourselves in position so that the outcome can go in our favor more times than not? And I think that's important for us. Like, we need to we're going to keep our eyes open in terms of just the general landscape of college athletics. Where do we fit in? Where does the Missouri Valley Conference fit in? Making sure that Drake still fits in to where the Missouri Valley Conference kind of sees things going, and what does that look like? And then are there things on the facility front that we need to continue to do to make improvements or upgrades? Right? We've had some success in that space. Proud of what we've done in a number of our areas. There's a lot more that we need to do. Drake Stadium turns 100 years old this year. We've got to invest in that facility for the next century. That place has had so many great memories created there. Like, we need to make sure that we are investing in it properly so that we can continue to provide those opportunities for the next 100 years. Really happy with what we did with Mediacom Stadium, and what that has meant for our community. There's still some pieces there that we need to fine tune. We're trying to finish off this Northwest building piece here, and that's going to have an incredible impact on our current student athletes, as well as DMPS and others that get a chance to utilize that facility. There's a domino effect of getting that facility done that will impact many more in our space here. What does the Knapp Center look like? How do we continue to make some strides there? Paul and Claudia Schickler have been amazing in terms of their support for the arena and how we have kind of transformed that. There are still, I think, a few things that we can do in that space that we can continue to provide experiences for our fans, that we can also then utilize maybe some new opportunities there to generate additional revenue that we can put back into our operating budget, so we can do a better job of providing the tools that our coaches and athletes need to be successful. So those are some of the things, I guess, if you kind of look out 5 to 10 years, as to not being complacent, not being satisfied with where we're at, being appreciative of kind of what we have, but not settling, and knowing that the best is still out there in front of us.
Brian, thank you. I got two more questions. I know we're a little over time, but specific to facilities, I would love you to give a little bit more to the ones that are publicly announced. So any projects that you're currently working on, if you could just give a little more clarity around MediaCom, and then anything with the stadium that you're actively trying to raise funds for.
Yeah. So MediaCom Stadium. So, MediaCom Stadium, for those who aren't in the area here, Drake had not had a home soccer venue for a number of years. Immediately to the east of Knapp Center, we worked with Des Moines Public Schools to build a 4,000 seat stadium that serves as the home for Drake men's and women's soccer. It also serves the home for football for 4 of the 5 high schools in Des Moines, as well as all the soccer teams for Des Moines Public Schools. And it's been a fantastic addition to our campus, a great addition to our community. There is one piece of property that we shelled out a building that we knew was going to eventually serve as a home for our locker rooms and coaches' offices for Drake men's and women's soccer, as well as meeting room space and sports performance area in there, athletic training, weight room, such. So we have the opportunity to complete that here. We've had an amazing gift brought forward by Mark Ernst, past chair of the Board of Trustees, who still serves on the Board of Trustees, that we've got a campaign going right now trying to get a $500,000 match to really unlock another $1.5 million so that we can complete that that facility. It's a unique 3-to-1 match, and so that is an opportunity for us to finish off what has become, say, a gem of a stadium that we're really proud of. So we really encourage folks to look up their ability to support the MediaCom Stadium Northwest Building Sports Performance Center here on our campus. Drake Stadium, just a few blocks away, turns 100 this year. So we've got some special things planned for football, for Drake relays. But it's been a while since Drake has hosted, some of the elite track and field meets. And we know that every 10 years, we have to replace our football field and our track. And we did this in 06, did it in 16, and we're coming up. We need to do it again. And we're actually going to do it in summer of 27, because summer of 26, we host AAU Junior Olympics, which is a huge deal on campus and in our community here, where we'll have thousands of visitors come in here and compete in track and field at Drake Stadium. So summer 27 is when we knew we had to replace the track and the field. We desperately need to raise money for that and what that looks like. But then also at the same time, what other opportunities present themselves for us to maybe kind of rethink and make some other improvements that could help us attract NCAA track and field championships, or at a minimum, the West Regionals to come back to Drake Stadium, because we've not hosted those in quite some time. We've not had USATF track and field championships here in quite some time. And there are other opportunities that we could explore with some of the other circuits or anything else out there. And so part of that is making some improvements to the facility itself, adding some opportunities such as a wind reversible long jump, triple jump pits. We need to add a second one of those as a requirement that the NCAA has these days. We want to maybe try to look at, is there better ways to do some hospitality spaces? What else do we need to do to help improve the athlete experience? So there's a push that we announced this on the opening day of football, this Drake Stadium Centennial campaign, and so we'll be looking to raise about $6 million that we can go put towards that to improve what Drake Stadium has been. This is more so like not just for Drake relays or for the Iowa High School State track meet. And those will benefit from this too, but it's a real ability for us to bring more events, more people into Des Moines, to utilize Drake Stadium as the community asset that it is, and understanding the impact it can have on so many here in Central Iowa. Tens of millions of dollars get generated when we host significant events like this. So this type of a $6 million investment is going to pay itself off after just like the first year of different events that can come in here that currently are not coming to Des Moines. They're skipping over and going to other markets. We need to bring those back to Des Moines.
Brian, I appreciate it. I want to tell all the folks that have submitted questions, thank you. We've tried to get to some of them, and obviously we ran through time. Brian, the last thing for you to end on, I think, anything you'd want to share, and then we did get a question that I want the last one to be is, how do fans, alumni, help our teams be successful, including those that may not be local and live elsewhere in the country?
Yeah, just care. I mean, just find different ways to make an impact. Find a way to do something more than you have before, and that could be in a variety of ways. That could be talking to a neighbor, making them aware of Drake University and kind of the value that we provide from an academic standpoint, making them aware in Drake athletics and what that is. That could be in terms of, purchasing, any type of apparel. Be proud to wear your Drake blue around. Like put it out there. There's a lot of alumni from other schools that are very supportive, unabashed supporters of their institution. Do that for us. And there are. I worked when I was at Notre Dame. The Subway alumni over there are notorious for the school people who didn't go to school there but still loved it. How do we develop that? How can we have a lot of transplants that have come into Des Moines over the years because the community has grown so much. How do we get those transplants how do we become your team 1A or your team 1B and be supportive of Drake in that space? Buying season tickets, finding ways to, if you can come to games, get out there. If you can't do season tickets, do mini plan. If you've done a mini plan, get season tickets. If you can buy season tickets, but you can't make it to all the games, find ways to give those tickets out so that people will show up and be loud and make an impact on an outcome of a game. Our athletes love playing in front of full crowds. Find us when we're going on the road. A lot of our teams go all over the country. So our website is always updated in terms of what the travels look like. Get out there and support our teams on the road. Great ways to do that. Bulldog Club, if need support, need to continue to grow our Bulldog Club. You know, what that means for us to be able to improve the opportunities of what we do, and from a sports medicine standpoint, from an academic support standpoint, what we're doing from a nutrition standpoint, the tools we can provide in the weight room, like these are all critically important. And if you want to find ways to give to a certain program, we've got excellence funds set up for all of our teams where you know your dollars are going to be there. So you want to do something that is going to benefit Joe Woodley and football, you can do that. You want to do something that you know is going to help Charlie DiSilvestro and our women's rowing program, there you can give directly to those programs, because operating budgets are really tough. It doesn't matter what campus you're at. Everybody, the dollar doesn't go as far as it used to, and prices continue to increase, and that affects our programs as well. So the ability that we can provide those dollars to give to those coaches to try to identify ways that we can to responsibly, utilize those resources is critically important too. So there's a lot of ways that folks can get out there and support Drake. We would take any and all of that from whatever anybody's willing to contribute.
Well, Brian, thank you. I'm gonna let you off the hot seat, and I'll personally thank you. I mean, you've brought and created a wonderful culture between athletics and the rest of campus. You and your staff have been great partners with us in the alumni office and across advancement, and that starts at the top. So we're grateful for that. I often tell people my job gets pretty easy when our programs are winning, so we like that. But thank you for spending an hour with us. I hope folks that are on here, you find your way to connect with athletics. Go to a football game if you've never been. It's a great atmosphere. If you're in Central Iowa, it's so accessible. You don't have the traffic you're going to catch in Ames or Iowa City. You're going to see great football. But find your way to connect. So with that,
Andy, I would just close with this. I'd say I agree. I've enjoyed working with you, but I would close with Paul Morrison line of, we're all in this together, and that's those of us here on Drake's campus in terms of kind of helping each other, helping you in your area and alumni relations, and certainly what you guys do for us, but also in the larger sense, everybody who's on the call here, is that we're all in this thing here together. So thank you, Andy, for the opportunity. Thank you to everyone who has signed up today. I was shocked to see more than 180 folks signed up. That's a lot of board people and